It's all this stuff is in.
Okay, is that the level you want?
Turn it down. You can turn it on.
Hey, turn it down!
Turn it down, guys.
See, at a certain point, some of the fun of this shot is just momentum, going in through fire.
Ron gave us a lot of prep time, and we played with fire, and I set guys on fire, and we watched fire burn, you know, see what it would do, and it was all a learning process, I think, for everyone. Ron says, I think he said like 20-some explosions going off in this building, and there's all the fire, our whole cast is in this building at the time. And I go to Ron, I said, you know, Ron, I'm a little bit nervous about this, especially with, you know, you got your camera crew in here too. I think we need to do a test. He says, if you think we need to do a test, do one. So I went to Alan, I says, Alan, we need to do a test. He said, really? You know, that's an expensive test. But Ron always said, no, if you need to test, you do your tests, all you need, and no matter what it costs. And he let us test a lot of things, you know. We got more confident each time. You know, fire doesn't forgive you at all, but we got more confident, and the stunt guys got more confident, and we did things that probably I didn't think would be possible to do before we started that film.
Walter's guys, I'm sure he handpicked them for fire, but it's the most incredible fire group I've ever seen. They just ran in, they did everything, they never complained, they wanted to do more.
They didn't have any fear of the fire, or they should have had more fear of it than they did.
I have personal photographs of guys, their whole body on fire and their heads on fire and everything, and they just say cut and then, okay, let's do it again, you know?
The one stunt guy for Kurt knew he had to jump across fire in the deal to hit this valve to turn the thing off. So the other stunt guys, they were teasing John Casino, who doubles Kurt. What the hell was going on in your room last night? We heard these thumps against the wall and everything. He said, well, I had my bed set up, and I had a chair, and I was seeing how far I could jump from the chair to the bed to see if I could make that valve over there. He said, I kept hitting the wall and making it. He wanted to be sure he could make it across there and get out of the fire, so he was practicing in his room.
I was suggesting to Ron that we try to first have a stunt guy go through fire, and then if our actors were willing, to try it with them. And I think Kurt Russell was the first guy who said, okay, we'll shoot a test and I'll go in the fire and see how it feels. And then, of course, once he said it was okay, then everybody else was okay.
You know, Kurt Russell's done them all. He knows how to do them all, and so does Scott Glenn. They were all great. I mean, even Billy Baldwin, he was the youngest kid, you know, which is what he was playing in the film anyway. And he was really eager to prove himself all the time.
Shit!
One of the first shots we did when we blew this building and had to put the actors in, we had to light Billy and Kurt on fire, put a lot of fire on them.
Billy and I said, I wonder if we could take that flame on our backs.
I want you to zip into that shot and head forward, walking toward there's going to be the blast.
Yeah, now, is the blast what drives me sideways?
Well, I think the blast should be
Kurt and I, we weren't in the fire, they set us on fire. Because we're firemen, it gave us the opportunity, when we're in these long boots and the coats and the helmets, we're already protected from the fire. And if you put some glue and light it on fire, you could sit there and look at it for about a minute before it really starts to get hot. And the take itself, you know, I was on fire for never more than about 30 to 40 seconds.
And right about there's when the flame go boom.
Yeah, that flame down there is going to go.
I guess it was the only time I've really been scared doing this movie, where I had to put them out in the shot. Billy wasn't so much a problem because he was lying down, so the flames were coming up, and the special effects people sort of laid the flames out on him. But Kurt stands up on fire in the shot and walks away from me. Once the sucker gets charged, I'm not too sure how easy it is, how fast I'm going to be able to drag it in. 'Cause if I get hung up.
Scott Glenn had the hose. Really trust Scott. I mean, he's one of those guys that, you know, will come through and do what you need to have done. And so he had the hose, and we said, you know, if we get in trouble, Scott will put us out.
Whoa! The first time they did it, I could see the flames on his back licking up into the back of his helmet, where his hair is. So I put the fire out right away, and Kurt said thanks, that was getting kind of hot, and then Ron came over and said, no, you got to let it burn longer. And I didn't know if I could do that because, you know, Kurt's a friend of mine, and he is a good guy. So, and Kurt understood what I was going through, so he said, hey, look, Scott, if I really start to burn up, I'll yell Scott, and you put it out. But otherwise, take the timing off of what Ron said.
We were just insane, and we got one take. Obviously, we wouldn't do it unless you could establish that it was us, and it was a shot where, like, I rolled right up into camera, and you could see that it was me, and then Kurt's on fire, and he yells to Scott. Scott puts me out, and Kurt runs out of the frame, and he puts Kurt out. Really kind of a rock and roll shot.
Ron came up to me and he said, look, he said, you can say no to this, but the best way for me to shoot this would be over Kurt Russell's shoulders to connect you two guys and to see that you're really 70 feet up in the air and that there's a real fire underneath you and that you are, in fact, on fire yourself. And I said, well, that's cool. And he said, but this would mean that you'd have to be set on fire. And I said, yeah, that's fine. And Walter Scott, the stunt coordinator, said a lot of stunt guys won't even do that. And I said, no, it's fine with me. I really regretted that I said I'd do it. Because I didn't sleep for 3 nights. I thought, what are you, out of your mind? When we got to the day, I was really terrified. You know, in for a penny, in for a pound. So I had on 3 pairs of Nomex long underwear and then the fire retardant suit. And then what they did was, I was attached to Kurt through there was a harness that attached to me with a steel cable that came out through my sleeve, up through Kurt's sleeve to a harness that he was, so we were locked into each other.
I was the guy with the 16-foot pole up on a scissor lift. I was the last guy with him right there when we had to light him.
We'd get the camera set up and we'd go right to the edge of the frame line. We were never more than maybe 10 or 12 feet away. And had extinguishers, had water extinguishers.
Then they rolled over a scaffold and they painted me with some kind of napalm-like stuff. And they told me, they said, look, you can turn like this and you can turn like that, but don't turn like that because flames are going to be coming up over your shoulders.
I told him, I says, if you start getting hot and feeling yourself burning or anything, just say my name, Walter, just say Walter. He says, what if I forget your name? I says, you won't.
At the last minute, they hit me with a small flamethrower and they set me on fire and then they rolled the scaffolding away and we ran the shot. And we did, I can't remember, something like 3 or 4 takes.
We literally were lighting him on fire and he would just grit it and stand it and all of a sudden he'd get to the point, he goes, hot, hot now. Boom, and put him out.
On like the 5th take, as they were painting me, somehow one of the brushes hit my shoulder and I started spinning on the wire. And I've been a parachutist, a skydiver, so I know that when you get in that kind of a spot, what you do is you kick yourself and to untangle yourself. So I kicked myself to get in the proper position again, and then they set me on fire, they wheeled the scaffolding away and they started the shot, but somehow while I was doing that kicking myself, I got some of that napalm stuff, whatever it was, the flame stuff, on the insides of my legs, which had never been there before. And all of a sudden, I could feel in very private parts of my body imminent damage being done. And I screamed like a lot of, put me out.
And he said, wah, he just barely got wah out, and there were 4 firemen on each side with hoses trained right at him. And they just drowned him, put him out.
And they covered me with foam and everything else and dropped me down to the ground. And the fire retardant pants were gone. The first set of Nomex long underwear was gone. The second pair was crumpled and black, and the last pair was black. And they pulled all this stuff off me, and on the inside of my thigh was a big blister just starting. And luckily, a girl from Craft Services had frozen aloe on the set, and she came over and smeared it on, and it was okay. Walter said right after we did that shot that he was going to talk to the Stuntmen's Association to make sure that I got a credit as a stuntman at the end of the film. And then later on, they also gave Billy and Kurt credits at the end of the film too for just being around fire all the time.
The stunts I love to do. I mean, I basically said to Ronnie, whatever you're going to do, if you want to try and get the camera in there and you could see my face long enough to establish that it's me, I'll do anything you want.
Look at him. That's my brother, goddammit.
These are still our leads in the movie, you know. But they were really professional and really wanted to do it themselves. We had to double them sometimes, you know, but they were really into it, you know. I mean, they were as good as the stuntmen, really, but they just couldn't take the chances with them as we could with the stuntmen. That was a tough one. I even tried to talk Ron out of it. I said, you know, those trucks aren't built to roll over. Let's have a car cut in front. Let's go through into a building. Let's dangle it off of something. He says, no, Walter, I want to turn it over. So they went and they found an old fire truck, refurbished it, rebuilt it, and the effects guys did a great job of putting weights in the top of the truck that would slide. They were on slides. So when all we had to do, as our theory, was get the truck at least 4 to 6 inches on one side up, and these weights would all shift, and that would put the truck on its side. So I would pile up some dirt, make a construction site there, and have a taxi cab cut in front of this, and if my driver can hit that pile of dirt just right and the curb is there, we may get that 6 inches we need. And it's at night, and we all go to work, and they start lighting the streets, and it's taking a long time, and I'm setting my dirt ramp up, and 2 old-time stuntmen were there, just happened to be there. They say, Walter, you think this is going to work? And about 1 o'clock in the morning, here comes Ron Howard. Everybody's showing up from the studio. They're all there. So now I'm getting nervous. So I had Tony Brubaker was driving the truck, and it was an old truck. And he started it 2 or 3 times, and we hear him coming down this dark street, just the engine's roaring, and he can't get it in gear. So I'm hollering, cut, 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 cut. And then finally, the 3rd time, we heard him hit 2nd gear, and I knew he was coming. And he just had to miss a telephone pole that was there. And Terry Leonard has to bring this yellow taxi cab right in front of him. And he has to clear, or the truck will be on the cab, and we'll kill Terry, too, you know. But it was pretty intense, but it couldn't have worked any better. I really didn't have much confidence, but Ron Howard gave me the confidence and the go-ahead to take your time, make sure it works, and do it your way. We'll gamble with you. We didn't have really a chance to rehearse this particular piece. So we get ready to do it, and the 2 stuntmen are up there, and nobody's near them, and the effects guys start lighting this whole building on fire. And I believe what happened is they lit some fires under the guys first that were up on this catwalk. And they have to get this thing lit, and it must take 15, 20 minutes to get this whole building burning, and now it's getting loud and you can't hear anything. And they're starting to roll the cameras, and I'm concentrating on the 2 stunt guys that are up there. I'm just watching them. And all of a sudden, Bobby Raggi, who was gonna flip off of there, all he did was he just raised his hand one time like that, right when we're rolling the cameras. And I'm saying, as I looked, he didn't do it again, but I said, something's wrong. So I said, cut, 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 stop. And everybody's kind of looking at me like, wait, what are you saying? I said, cut, 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 cut. And I grabbed a scissor lift, and we went up there, and they were both just about unconscious. The fire had taken all the oxygen out of the air up where they were. So the effects guy says, well, okay, well, we won't light this under them. We'll do some venting over here and over there, and we'll go again. But I watched them a lot closer, and we really had some signals down then. I said, if you don't feel you can breathe, wave all your hands, stand up, do anything, you know. But Bobby told me, he says, Walter, all of a sudden I just felt weak, and my head was real light, and I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. Well, I didn't have any oxygen. When I tell people I did Backdraft, they go, wow, really? And they want to hear the stories, and it was a great experience for me. I know I'm known as a Western guy, but that wasn't much of a Western. That was kind of fun, you know, different.
It's a living thing, Brian. It breathes, it eats, and it hates.
I always hoped through the use of special effects or somehow to give the illusion that the actors were really there. I wanted to do at least 1 or 2 sequences that felt like combat footage, where you're really inside the fire with the firefighters. Action! As we started going through the training process and started learning about the actual firefighting equipment and also what our physical effects crew can control and manipulate fire right there on the set, we began to realize that in a controlled situation, if we were very careful, that we could get pretty close to it.
Okay, lighting up. Are you ready all right? Lighting up together. Lighting up. Hey! Don't let it know you're scared.
Well, they told me it was a fire movie, you know. I thought, boy, I'm going to have to look at every fire movie ever made and see if we can take it a step beyond. We had 3 months, which was the longest prep I'd ever had on anything.
We'd sit and play with every combination of equipment and try stuff that we had never seen done or whatever and altered it. So we'd have 4 days of testing, and every Friday, Mikhail would get with us, we'd film it, and then view it on Monday.
We really wanted it to be different and look different and be the best we could, so we had the time and the resources to try these things. And we came up with the tornado fire, and we could do spirals and just all kinds of crazy stuff. Every time we would have a scene, I would do a little line drawing of the building, and then I would paint in where I thought the flames ought to be and how it should go, and then I'd go for Ron's approval, and he'd say, well, that's okay, but this part I want it a little bigger or a little less. We don't need flames here, we can just do smoke. Everything was really planned out on paper first.
Mostly we used propane mortars. We also experimented with some of the liquid fuels.
There's so many techniques of fire, and a lot of them are old Hollywood techniques that have been around forever. We would tweak versions of that. One version is you take a diesel fuel and pump it over a regular propane bar. So now you've got this big, black, nasty, curly smoke of the diesel burning. And when we did the big high-rise buildings and things, we'd have just gallons and gallons, tons of this stuff up in these floors, and there were guys up there pumping that stuff out. And we had glue materials. We used Petronio, which was the best glue.
There's a distributor somewhere in Chicago at the time that thought that the shoe business was in really, really good shape because we were buying hundreds and hundreds of cases of shoe leather glue, and so literally pouring gallons of it on the set and igniting it.
I remember we were doing the fire where Kurt runs in and rescues the kid. I remember scraping against the wall while we were dolling back. And then somebody tells me you're on fire. It turned out I had picked up some glue that was glued to the frame of the door, and obviously the glue is on fire, so it's on fire. But you know, I had a leather coat on, and I still have that coat, and it was just another souvenir.
Mikhail did a lot of camera tests, like I say at the beginning, and realized he needed a lot more front light on the flames so they wouldn't flare out.
The main concern as a cameraman was that up to that point, most fires, when you shoot them, okay, you take your meter out, you light a flame bar to create some fire effect, and you look at your meter and say, oh, there's plenty of light. We can shoot without much light, but I wanted to go the opposite way because shooting fire without additional lighting will just make the fire blow out, become white. Ron wanted the fire to be rich, warm. So what I did was I shot the whole movie with daylight balance films that's more sensitive to red, I guess. And then that way the fire itself would be a lot warmer. I think the big turning point for realism in the movie was really because I had to run through fire myself.
Mikhail would just dive in there. He was just the best guy. I mean, it was incredible. And hence he was included in our nomination. I think we only burnt the hair off his arm once. We had what we call the backdraft haircut. Everybody get a little short here in front.
You can actually run through fire. It's like you can pass your hand through a candle and it'll be all right. And if you're well protected, you can spend a little more time that way.
The matte boxes, we'd have melted ones because he was right in there doing it. It was just incredible.
The interesting thing is it's really only the radiated heat that hurts you. So if you have some kind of primitive shield in front of you, you're okay. But it's the prolonged exposure, of course, then it gets really hot.
People don't realize the radiant heat. There's so much infrared coming off of that. especially the diesel over propane fires. You couldn't get within 30 feet of it. It would just start to burn you. It's just incredibly, incredibly strong.
I had Claremont Camera, who was the camera rental house. They actually constructed to my specifications 2 fireproof boxes, one that was water-cooled and one that just had ceramic tiles, sort of what the space shuttle had on the inside. So what happened, if we needed another camera, we could actually put it right into the scene. We would glue it up, put glue on it and set it on fire, and then the other cameras couldn't see it because it was on fire and the camera was actually shooting.
Take it off! Turn it off!
We have to be very careful with black smoke because black smoke is not good. Any particle breathing is bad. The white smoke was very easy. It's usually a vaporized oil or a glycol. The black smoke, the old way was to burn tires, and we did burn some tires, but not around people. OSHA has approved certain types of smokes for public use. But to smoke it up right at the last minute, we'd have somebody run through and put enough ambient smoke in there to make it look good and look right. And you always had a problem with smoke because the heat rises and it sucks everything with it, and pretty soon there's no more smoke. It's all gone up. So we had some guys that just did smoke. We had one guy that he was up in the permanence, would be lighting balsa wood on fire and throwing it over at people.
There was one machine which was somewhat of a nuisance. We called it the Ashmatic.
Ashmatic.
The Ashmatic thing.
The Ashmatic, they hated that. We really wanted something flying in the air so it doesn't look too clean all the time. And since we couldn't use too much smoke because of visibility, we came up with this thing, which was a cardboard thing.
It's sort of like a big shredder that shreds cardboard boxes, sets it on fire, and then blows it out of tube.
When you see the film, pieces of burning stuff floating through which makes the shots really real, but you know, when it lands on you, it burns you.
When it land on your skin, it would really hurt because they're burning. And the actors were not happy with that, but it does look great. I can say that being behind the camera.
All of us got burned in the face doing that movie.
The only thing that was really a nuisance, it was that thing, because sometimes the ash would land on your face or in your eyelash, and you know, walk around with like 2 eyelashes on one eye. But even that, you kind of go, yeah, you know, I got burned today doing the shoot, you know. And they just play it off like some macho thing. It was a piece of cardboard floating around, you know.
Everybody hated the Ashmatic. And I'm sorry I couldn't bring it because we blew it up the last day.
And Scott got to blow it up.
We let him blow it up because he complained the most about it. We did our first fire and we noticed that on the ceiling the fire was creeping along, and it's hot, so it's staying high, but it's oxygen starved, so it's only burning on the bottom belly of the thing, and that became the brain fire. I think Ron says, hey, I like that, you know. So that became the personality of the brain fire.
It created that effect of the rolling fire. It's almost a blanket of fire, but you can only have it when you're looking up. When it's up against the ceiling, you can't do it on the floor because then it has plenty of fire. So what we did was we actually constructed some sets that were upside down to get the look of it as if it was on the floor, to create that sense that it was like a liquid fire almost. And we had some stunt guys standing upside down, so we had their feet on the ceiling, and then the camera was upside down too, so it looks as if they're standing in this carpet of fire.
We built that set on the top floor of a parking structure. The art department designed the effects. The effects department made them happen.
The floor is supposed to split open, and as the guy is running, it's right behind him. And I thought there has to be a way to do this that is fail-safe, that it has to work 100% of the time.
Alan was out driving around one day and came back and goes, I've got the solution. What? And it's a supermarket conveyor for boxes. What we did was we took a long one, built it up on scaffold wheels.
We designed the cutout for where it goes on the roof, where he is supposed to run and how it's supposed to crack open. We built it with that opening. And then we took planks, laid them inside the cut, but hinged them only on one side. Underneath that, we slid a roller, put the boards on top. When you pulled the roller out, the boards fell into the hole.
As long as his spacing was perfect, the boards would fall, you know, just inches behind every footstep.
It's one of those instances where set design and stunts and visual effects and special effects all comes together.
When he goes over the parapet and goes through the window and falls into the elevator shaft, what we did there was we built 3 walls of the elevator shaft and lowered it into a swimming pool so that on camera you saw the water rising, but it wasn't. The wall behind it was going down. The actor was standing on a platform chest high.
I think what happened with the fire is we became used to it, we became better at it, and we became not afraid anymore. The first few scenes were terrifying for everybody. We became more familiar with the fire the more we worked with it. And it started worrying me towards the end because everybody was very casual with it. We hadn't hurt anybody, we hadn't had an accident, everything had been so safe and smooth. And I remember one night, one of the guys stepped in a puddle of glue. We used glue for some of the flame materials. And his foot was on fire, and I said, "Hey, your foot's on fire." And he says, "Yeah, I know, it's cold in here." And that's how casual. I thought, that's not good.
Then it started getting colder outside, so you'd put the pilots on, and everybody's standing over warming their hands. And that was at one point where Alan went again and said, "Hey guys, this is serious, it's really dangerous, let's not get too casual."
I think we did one of the better fire movies ever made, and I don't think it'll ever be the same because the digital has gotten so good. We just wouldn't put stuntmen in fires like that nowadays because you don't have to. When the movie was finally over, I felt like I'd come off of a tour of Vietnam or something. I felt this huge weight just, After Backdraft, they'd only call me for fire movies. But one thing I noticed, I did another movie right after Backdraft. It was very fresh, I knew everything, and it wasn't a great experience. And I learned from that it's everybody combined. It's the right stuntman, it's the right cameraman, it's the right director, it's the right effects guy. When things come together, it can become magic. And it's hard to repeat that.
That is a cut. Cut. Come on back, guys. That's a cut.
They say the fireman does all the work, the engineer drives, and the captain just talks. So that's, the fireman's the workers.
I was in the Navy when this movie came out, and it kind of reaffirmed that, hey, that looks like a good time. I think I want to do that for a career. And I think it just reaffirmed my belief that that's what I wanted to do.
We probably all saw it.
Yeah, we all saw it.
I think we all went and saw it. A couple of us all went together, right, with our wives. And I think the movie in general was great, and I think it did wonders for the firefighters afterwards. I mean, you know, driving down the street and everybody's waving at you now, and I think it really was great for the fire department.
People would come up to me years later, 2-3 years later, just, "Hey, is that really what you guys do? You guys are awesome."
Every day when it's time to go to work, I never say, "Oh, I got to go to work." It's like, I can't wait to get to work. It's fun, you know, we have the camaraderie and
Yeah, this
very
is our
rewarding.
home away from home. We we come here and we live with, I live with these guys and we do everything together.
It is a home. They are our family. We are family members.
Close family.
Yeah. Times we don't like each other, times we like each other, but it all washes out in the end.
We eat here, sleep here, 24 hours a day. Off duty, we do things together. Real brotherhood. If you have any sickness, anything happens, next thing you know, the guys are at your house painting, yards, whatever you need. You don't even have to ask. It's a tight group.
We come to work, and I think every one of us, every day, we hope we get a fire. I mean, I know it sounds pretty bad, but that's what we're trained to do. And when you get a structure response, I think it's a pretty mad dash for the apparatus.
The bells go off, and you get to the rig in a quick amount of time. We have MDT's computers. It says what type of fire it is, whether it's a residential, commercial, brush fire. Our area, we have a lot of brush fires out here, and you get in, the engineer's job, he knows the area, the streets. He goes to the map, gets us lined out.
We're excited. We want to be the first ones there. We don't want another engine company beating us in.
And you get there and it's all in your training, you know, you just step by step, you evaluate it real quick.
The captain usually gives what this is called size up, which is like an initial blast of information about what type of building it is, what's burning, and where he wants the other units to go. And usually the firefighters will take the hose lines, at least two will take a hose line and attack the fire. Somebody might go break out some windows or start some cross ventilation to get some air through there to make it more attainable for the firefighters going in.
You go in, very smoky, and you can't see in front of your face, and you're just crawling around, staying low, and you know your mind's going 100 miles an hour, you know, because you're adrenaline and this and that, and it is, I don't want to say scary, but it's a different feeling when you can't see anything, and it's real hot, and you don't know what you're climbing over and tripping over and falling, and it's hard to describe unless you're really in one of those situations.
You can't even see the fire. It's so smoky you can't even see fire. You can feel it, but you don't know where actually the fire is.
And you have that feeling of, you're not panicking, but you have that feeling of, oh my gosh, where am I? Well, what am I going to do here? Yeah, I know all these guys are right on my tails, but
very disoriented when you're in there because there's furniture. You've never been in this person's house. You can't see this far in front of your face, and it's very hot, and you're just crawling through trying to find the seat of the fire, and it can be a little scary, but at the same time, it's a fun adrenaline rush.
Well, you wear your turnout pants, and you got your rubber boots, your turnout coat. Of course, you put on a hood. You got your gloves on, your breathing apparatus, helmet, and your mask. When you're all covered up, there's no skin showing at all. And all of that together weighs...
You're usually carrying a tool, either an axe you
An
have
axe
on you or
you
something,
have
so you're
on.
probably carrying
About
another
80 to 100 pounds.
80 pounds with you.
Yeah, 80 to 100 pounds extra.
So that's why I see as a captain too, I have to watch my men to say, okay, you're out, I want a new crew, or wherever we're going. You have to make sure, you know, that they're getting out, you're replacing them all the time.
The fire may be the size of a trash can, or maybe a well-involved structure, a few rooms burning, but because of the heat and the smoke and the gas, and the fact that you can't see, you need to get in there, find the seat of the fire, and that's when you open up the nozzle and try and hit the fire itself.
So there's a lot of tactics and strategies that are involved, and we're all taught that in the academy, and then we're also continuing education on different types of fire.
In a structure fire, it's all enclosed, it's indoor, it's contained, it's going to spread throughout the structure, but say on a brush fire, it's outdoors, you have different factors, you have your weather, you have your lay of the land, the steepness of the hill, the thickness of the brush.
you think you're safe in 1 second, and the wind comes up out of nowhere, and you get a cross-section coming in, and next thing you know, it's right on top of your head.
And it's all experience and time, and there's been firefighters before us we've learned from. It goes on and on and on. But no fire's the same. And when you think you know it all, you don't know it all.
You don't know anything.
That's when you get in trouble. There is a backdraft situation, you know, but there again, we're trained. You come up, if you fill that door, it's hot, and you see smoke, you know, in and out, you know, you just don't open that door. You go to the roof first, cut the hole, let it out, just like a chimney, then you go in. It's a quick operation, but you just wouldn't open that door. You would give it that oxygen, and then next thing you know, you may be on your back or flying out. I thought the movie was well done. It's very hard to do a movie on firefighting to get, you know, actual scenes you can't get inside because, like we said, the smoke is what's missing in there, but yet, filming-wise, what can happen, I thought it was done very well. Yeah. Even the working of the guys, the joking, the whole film, it was done good. I'm not sure it would carry on to fights or anything, but, you know, there's parts in there, but we've had some of those, too.
I've seen it.
We've seen the jokes, we've seen...
The movie did well.
It was a good movie. The only non-parallel in the movie is that in those big buildings when you're going in to fight a fire, you would have to have your breathing apparatus on to breathe in there because
you couldn't walk around and talk.
You couldn't walk and talk.
You're talking 1,500, 2,000 degrees.
Of course, we're crawling on the ground, and then the water that we are squirting on the fire starts to boil. Now your knees are burning. You know, you don't feel that heat.
But to a viewer and not in our profession, I think it was done well. I think they get the feeling or get the idea.
I think next to 9/11, 9/11, I think that was probably one of the most significant things that put our career in the public eye.
When we did lose all the firefighters there, I think that hit home with all of us.
Me personally, I think every single one of these guys, we all went back to try and help in one way or another for 9/11 to New York City. We just went back to help the guys back there, cook, just help clean their station, do what we could to make these guys feel a little more comfortable. It almost made us feel like you got brothers all the way across the country.
All the way across.
All the way across the country. And, after all the hurricanes that happened, you see all the firemen from New York down there helping out. They wanted to return the favor.
I've never seen the brotherhood like it is after 9/11. We've always had it, but not to this extent all the way across the country. And I think that's really, it brought us even closer as a family. And I think the movie and 9/11 kind of put that in the general public's eye that, hey, we are here for them. We're risking our lives, and we have families too.
I think it gave the public a better idea of what we do. A lot of people just think because they see fire on the side of the fire engine or the fire truck that all we do are go to fires, and that's not the case. We do anything from terrorism attacks to medical calls to cats in trees. We still get calls for cats in trees, believe it or not.
I think it put a whole new spin on things for police and fire. Fire and police working together, getting those people out and risking their lives and whatnot. So
Our brothers paid a hell of a price for us to be acknowledged. It won't be forgotten.